This is a review of Michael Klein's flower painting workshop that I purchased through the East Oak Studio website. And I really wanted to watch this workshop because I love Michael Klein's work. I really like he has a lot of variety in his paintings, from painting very thinly to thickly. His brush work I find very interesting, which is the big reason why I wanted to purchase this and watch him paint, and I'm really glad I did. So on his website, it's for $249, so at least while I'm recording this, it's on sale right now for $225. So the workshop, it's divided into 3 different parts. It was filmed over 3 days, so 3 days of painting, 3 hours a day, and it's set up like a workshop, and it was originally a live stream video, so people could buy their ticket for it and then watch it online when he was doing it live, and you could people could write in questions. So how it's designed is each hour Michael Klein then takes a break and he reads through and answers questions. And the filming's really well done. They've got different cameras for different camera angles, so you get close-ups of the painting, the setup, him mixing paint. It's set up so you have his painting and then his palette is right next to it, and the palette is set up vertically so you can really easily see the mixtures that he's making. And another cool feature is he has a smartphone that's hooked up with the system, so if he wants to show something really specific that he's like mixing or painting or something really specific on the setup, he then holds up his smartphone, which starts recording it, so then he's like in control of the footage that's being filmed. And he's working from life. The flowers, the bouquet of flowers, are living, and it's artificial light that he's working under. He's working from life. The bouquet of flowers that he's painting from are living flowers, and it's all under artificial light. So day 1, he starts explaining his materials. He's using oil paint, and he mentions that you were emailed a list of the specific colors and brands, and that might be true. I might have missed it in my email, but I couldn't find that list. So I emailed East Oak Studios, and they're super fast to respond, and I got the list the next day. So he goes over the paint, goes over the ACM panel that he's using, and describes how you can make your own ACM panel. Goes over the mediums that he's using and also the paintbrushes. He uses Rosemary paintbrushes, and he's also got like a partnership with them, so they sell Rosemary shells, the Michael Klein package of brushes, which I think he said they're $80. So if you want, you can buy the same brushes that he's using. Also, you get sent a PDF picture of the floral setup. So he's working from life, but just for your own reference, you can see a picture taken of the flowers. Okay, and then he gets started, and he has a really interesting way of starting, using a fan brush to start, massing in the background, and the overall movement of the bouquet of flowers. I really like how he starts a painting. There's a lot of energy, and he's loose with it, and he's not being like super specific with like a really tight drawing, but he's more so going for like the basic gesture and flow of the painting. You start seeing him like really early on using really bizarre ways of using a brush, or at least ways that I'm not used to seeing, which I like. So you like, even from the beginning, you're seeing how he uses starts to get like those like really Michael Klein brush strokes. Then he starts to focus. Once he gets like the main mass of the painting in, he starts to focus in one area. So he first goes to the right side of the bouquet and starts working that way. The whole time he's painting, he's talking and explaining what he's doing, and so when he's focusing on the right side, it's kind of slow going as he's explaining what he's doing slowly and painting slowly. And it takes a while for him to get the right side of it done, because it's a lot of like talking and explaining and painting. And then when he moves to the left side of the bouquet, he picks up the pace a bit, which is nice, because then you start to see, he's still explaining what he's doing, but it's more like you start to see probably his more natural flow. So the right side of the painting, slow going, but a lot of explanation, and the right side you start to see more like of the movement of how he works. Another thing that you get to see really well is how he works with broken color. How he mixes up his palette is he uses a brush and will take his brush and pull some of that pure color straight from the tube and kind of scratch it onto his palette and add you know, more mixtures, and that's how he gets his mixture. So it's mixing with a brush, and he keeps the color not completely mixed but broken with it. So then when he's like taking his brush to apply it to the canvas, you still get that like broken color. It's a way that I'm not used to working, so it's really nice to see someone working this way. So the first day is more like setting in the basics. So he gets everything in there pretty loosely, and the underpainting is more like an alla prima style of painting. So it's not like an underpainting that would be in grisaille or in gray or black and white, but it's got all of the color associated to it that it has from life, just kind of in a looser style. So it lends itself very well for the next day when he paints over top of that. The next day he talks about how the flowers have changed a little bit because he's working from life. The flowers the next day are drooping down a little bit, and he talks about how, you know, he anticipates this happening and what he does when things change a little bit or change a lot, and how he works that with his painting. So he works on the painting, and he's getting things to be more specific and working them out more. What I really like is when he gets things more specific and more tight, it doesn't really lose the energy of the piece. Like, it doesn't look overworked. He's got like a lot of different techniques that he's using. So he'll have thin paint, thick paint that he's working with. He also has a really interesting way of sanding. I know that painters sand, I've sanded before, but he does it in a different way of like sanding while working while the paint is wet, which gets this really interesting effect, and you really just have to see it. I'm definitely going to borrow this in my own painting, that sanding technique. He also does some demos as well. So he takes out a fresh panel and he shows a value scale with the color red and then also yellow. Day 3, just getting things more specific and accurate and moving the painting along. He does more demos today too. He does like a full spectrum of light using like his more high chroma pigments on his palette, and he also does a demo of a curved leaf, really large, so you can see what he's like, how he's applying that to the painting. And then in this stage you really see him do everything, like the sanding, painting with glazing or scumbling, painting very thickly, thinly. Yeah, he just kind of like does everything through it, and just getting things more specific and a little bit more delicate in areas. And he says he likes to not follow life, like the setup, perfectly. He likes to make changes when it will improve his painting. So for example, there's this large purple flower. I forget the name of this specific flower, but it's a dark purple, and he was saying that it looks a bit awkward translated in his painting, and you can see that's how it looks from life, but it's kind of like this dark purple circle and there's lighter things around it, and it doesn't like mesh that well into the painting. So he tries out some different things and talks about how he's going to make that have more harmony in the painting by either like lightening up areas of that dark purple flower and then darkening other areas, and using like different colors in the greens to get it to sit more in there. So that's interesting to see as well when you're painting, even though you're copying something from life. If it's not looking like, or if your painting's lacking harmony or you want to change something, he shows you different examples of how you can do that. And then he finishes the painting, and it's ended with like a lot of close-up shots of the painting. So I really like this workshop. I'm glad that I purchased it. What I really got out of the painting, being that I've had 5 years of atelier training, watching this video, seeing different ways that you can use a paintbrush. He will like scrape with the brush or like roll the paint off the brush, and he does all these like weird, interesting things, kind of anything that you could think of that you can do with applying paint with a paintbrush. It kind of seems like he's figured it out or experimented with it. Also using a fan brush. I paint with fan brushes, but it's not really painting with them. I will use a fan brush to knock down ridges in my painting if like the ridges are catching light and creating like a weird glare on the painting. But he starts the painting with the fan brush, and I am definitely going to borrow that with how he masses in things with a fan brush. That I think is interesting, and how he does glazes and like taps it on his painting in weird ways that makes cool effects. And then also, like I mentioned before, his way of using sandpaper, which I've never seen before, it does make a really interesting effect on the painting. And then there's another way too where he will, it was towards the end of the painting, and he was using his paintbrush and kind of like scratching in paint and filling in little holes that was very reminiscent of how I would draw with charcoal, especially in my atelier training when you work on this like really textured paper. It's the way that you're like using your wrist and you're like applying the charcoal into the paper to fill in holes, that I'd never thought of doing that with paint before, so that's another technique that I'm definitely gonna borrow. And then also how he uses his palette. When I mix up colors, I use a palette knife, and when I'm mixing up my specific mixtures, they're all in little specific piles. He has a much more loose effect with it. Like I was saying before, he uses his, not a palette knife, but a brush to mix these colors in his mixtures, and they're not really separate mixtures either. For example, if he's mixing up greens, there'll be a dark value green that'll like blend into a lighter green, so it's not these like specific small piles like working its way from a dark value to a light value. It's kind of like one stream that he's used his brush to like almost like scribble on his palette to get those effects, which I can see that he uses to like really use that broken color. All in all, really good video. The workshop, it felt like a workshop and you're sitting in his class, and I like that he's talking while he's painting, but also people were able to type in questions that he answered each hour through the 9-hour workshop. So questions maybe that he wouldn't have thought of, but are nice to hear. So this is really well done. I recommend it if you want to see how Michael Klein makes his paintings and gets all those really cool brush strokes.